his memory. He said, oh, I said, I know who you are too.
All right, folks, since we are all here and accounted for, I will go ahead and call this study session to order at 6 p.m. We can start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And City Clerk Domingo, will you take a roll call for us, please?
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Reed,
Here.
Jackson,
Here.
Lawler, Davis,
Here.
French,
Here.
and Mayor Snyder.
Here. So we're going to start off our study session with a presentation on the surplus property sales. And Dr. Arnold, are you going to take it from here?
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, good evening, everyone. We're gonna, just keep it short as we can so you can get to the rest of your agenda. But it is the duty of my office, on behalf of the city manager's office, to, on a yearly basis, make a recommendation on the sale of any surplus property that the city has identified that would be better served not in the city's ownership, but in the ownership of the general public. So that is what we have for you in 10 short slides tonight. Starting off, feel free to stop me along the way if you have questions, but hopefully I'm just going to try and present it all as clearly as possible. So to start with, all the blue parcels that you are seeing on that map, that is what the city of Albion owns. That is residential parcels that we might have obtained after they go back on taxes. That is city parks, that's the wastewater treatment facility, public services, and public safety facilities, as well as the cemetery and, of course, City Hall right in the middle there. In addition to that, it's got a fair amount of property, like those residential lots, and like our MEDC redevelopment ready community priority sites that we have a special interest in moving to market as soon as we are legally and ethically and strategically able to do so. Hit the next slide. So just to contrast, you should all be fairly familiar with that map, but in addition to the prior one showing the city-owned property, this is the other one. I look at this a few hundred times a day. This says what we can do and where. So any sales of property that we have to, on some level, be accountable to this map. So if we are making a sale of property because someone says they want to put in a potato chip factory, we can't really do that in our neighborhoods. So that is when someone comes before you saying, hey, I know the city has this piece of property, I'd like to put in an offer. These are the things that I would want to put in my written recommendations about that.
That is a map detailing our zoning court of
Yes,
ordinance.
sorry, that is our zoning district map. It's on the wall here behind us. I will spare you all reading this. It's provided for you there, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it at any time in my office. But that is the ordinance that describes the conditions under which the city may let go of property. There are several clauses in there detailing that we have to be very specific in how we take our bids. A through H outline the bid process and fair market value that we ask the assessor for and are required to consider when considering bids from residents for the sale of property. I and J are the exceptions to that rule, where the council has at their discretion the ability to, if they believe it is in the best interest of the city, make alterations to the process outlined prior to that. So our job as city administration is to prepare any residents who are putting in an offer, advise them of this process so that they come to you well prepared, and then leave it to your judgment to take the recommendation that we put on the table or act outside of that if you feel like the circumstances warrant it. I'm going to take you through a quick tour of some sites that are on our horizon. All of this is a little bit slow going just due to a recurring theme that you'll get throughout this: environmental testing and remediation. So this is on East Mulberry Street, 4 parcels there owned by the city and in Orange County Land Bank. We work cooperatively with the County Land Bank to make sure that anytime we are working on development, it is in congruence with them and not against what they're doing. So this is an example of a site where we've got some funky shaped parcels that we really don't want to move forward on any kind of development or sale with, unless we're going to be on the same page with the county here. They get property under different circumstances than we get, and they have their own rules to follow, just like we do. So we try and work cooperatively with them, because our goal with any property that the land bank has and any surplus property that the city has that is not property for parks, public safety, public services, we want to get that back out into the taxpayers, or hold on to it for any expansions of those services or this building that we may need. So there might come a day when we're looking at adding some office space, and we'll be sorry if we've let go of land that would have been perfect for it. Yes.
This appears to be some of the property that was in question regarding building the new school, but land evaluation or environmental evaluation was one of the challenges. Has it been tested, or?
This site has not been tested. I was not aware that it was related to the school, though I think that is just kind of south and east of that. Am I?
Okay, I know it was in that general area. I don't know.
It's behind, if you're not seeing it immediately where we are, you've got Superior Street there on the left, and then just south past those parcels that we can't see in front of, that's East Michigan Avenue. So the college has their properties along there, Washington Garden, Munger, all that. There's not a whole lot happening with this site, but the order of go is environmental testing, working with the land bank to make sure that it's not fitting into their plan in a bad way, and making sure that we're looking out for the interests of residents, and working to get that property in a position where it can be sold. I tried to also include on this, we don't have to discuss it in the meeting, what the zoning is. So these are mixed-use parcels, and what precinct the properties are in. So if you have any questions on here, I don't think I got one from every precinct, but just because it's not on this list, we certainly have vacant land owned by the city in every single precinct. 307 East Cass Street, we're adjacent. Right there we have county land bank property, and I'm listing it here because we were working cooperatively with them on our Mishtamad project, where the state is providing us grant funding to build a modular housing development on Cass Street there to try and, we would call it a housing vitamin. We can build housing through the state at cost, where as if if you make your living building homes, you don't really want to be doing that. So in a tough market like we have right now, we can try and put new houses, decent construction on our local housing market without straining contractors and to be there for any homeowners who find themselves trying to find a home right now. Adjacent to that property is college property that we might also someday approach them about doing a similar development on. This is just on Cass Street, just east of the town. The environmental testing on this site has shown that there was an old gas station on the college-owned property on the left side here. So we are talking with the land bank. I think we have a meeting coming up in a week or two about what that will mean for our project, and we're staying in contact with the folks at NISHA to see how this could affect the grant that we've received, and if there's room in their program to work with us, because they are holding to their guidelines for any program that we're getting their money. So this, like a lot of these, is a bit of a work in progress. A little bit of wait and see, a little bit trying to figure out where we can get additional funding from the state or from the county for environmental remediation. We don't want folks building on contaminated soil. It's just definitely not in our best interest.
So Ian, just to clarify, the orange is currently owned by the land bank?
Correct, and that is the
Where the site? That's the Mishtamad site?
Yeah.
And then the purple is with the college owns?
Yes.
If I can just add a little bit, council, you did approve the purchase of the orange property. However, just the land bank, their requirements, they like to complete all environmental testing before issuing the deed and closing on that sale. So that's what we're in the process of doing right now. As Director Arnold stated, the phase 1 did show that there aren't contaminations on the orange lot, but there are on the adjacent lot right next to it. So we just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence before we come in and build a home there. So we have authorized the land bank to move forward with conducting a phase 2 environmental testing on the lot that we have, or you all have approved to purchase to move forward with the Mishtamad grant that we received.
What are the streets?
That is Cass and
Monroe.
so that is just
Where's
past.
Monroe?
Yeah, the lumber yard's the triangular piece down south of that major east-west.
Okay, but what's
So this is out City Hall Road and to the left.
That's the railroad tracks that's right there.
Yeah, where the bicycle shop used to be.
Yes, that's what that is, that big old.
Those of us who have
I
been here a
do,
while,
I
I know.
do.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, of course, it's where the bicycle shop used to be. Going.
Now we know where it is. Okay.
There's been a lot of that so far. So, right here, we refer to kind of this campus as the urban renewal. That refers to the urban renewal program that was carried out there some 50, 60 years ago at this point. This is kind of an environmental problem site. We're a little more optimistic about that Cass Street site. All of these parcels here, city property and woodland bank property in Orange, have significant levels of volatile, aerosolized contaminants. And there's another acronym that describes the other type, but essentially, there are things in the dirt on these lots that you do not want near your air conditioner, near your boots getting out of your car, or anything like that. And we have been working extensively with the land bank and with the Albion Economic Development Corporation to try to see what options are available to us. The short answer on a lot of these environmental problems is going to be we have to petition for state money, whether through existing programs and asking for the top dollar amount, or asking the state to consider adding programs, because we and everyone else who has a history of industry is discovering that there are a lot of remnants of that history not doing us any favors. Not just in the abandoned buildings that we see, and though it is good when we get those torn down because it gets us closer to this dirt, to go off of what the county's environmental engineer said. Everybody used asbestos until we found out we shouldn't. The same is true of the waste sand created at iron recoveries. And it was very easy for prior residents of Albion to say, oh, I just dug up my septic tank so I could hook into the city's brand new sewer system. Do you have a couple of yards of dirt? And then the contaminants spread from sites that are not, were not previously used for industrial purposes to sites that are. So just because any property that we're looking at was not directly adjacent to industrial facilities does not mean that there isn't a risk. And there is certainly plenty of naturally occurring contaminants that you don't want to get. So this, we're just shy of 10 acres. This is a half mile from downtown on the other end of Cass Street from that 307 address. It will be a great opportunity in the future, and it's just one of the projects that we're working towards.
Just to give you a reference, that top right corner, I believe that is the Forks Senior Center. So it's near Holland Park. I mean, just to add a little bit to what Director Arnold said about this funding available through the state. So right now, a lot of the grant programs, they are used to identify environmental concerns, which we've worked closely with the Calhoun County Land Bank. Krista came and presented on what environmental testing has been conducted in our community. So we've really taken advantage of that partnership with the land bank to conduct a lot of the environmental testing in our community. But right now, until the state recognizes that we need additional assistance to not only identify it, but now really remediate it, we're kind of, I don't want to say spinning our wheel, but it's just an unnecessary burden that we have, but unfeasible for the city to remediate. I think our last meeting, just talking with this site alone, in the tune to $2.5 to $3 million just to remediate the soil that has been placed as infill.
Yeah, and to just paint that picture a little more, 9.83 acres. The deepest we found unsafe levels of contamination on the phase 2 here was 8 feet. 10 acres, 8 feet deep, and the dirt has to go somewhere. So it's a expensive process, and that's why we're talking about we can't put this on the back of our taxpayers. We don't have it.
Can you help me understand the property? I see the different partials, how they're broken up and everything, but only the areas that have some contamination and there's houses in between there. I'm lost.
Yes.
Then also the other partials that that individual has that connects to their area. Yes, I'm just lost.
Yeah, so maybe I'm not quite understanding your question.
I think you do. I think you are.
Okay.
So let's start at that corner, that right corner right there.
Okay.
So you have that blue right there on Cass Street.
Yes.
Then you have a partial that's there in between there.
Yes.
Why is that partial not contaminated?
Well, so I should be clear. This map is not showing the contamination. This is just showing the parcels that we have, and we know that our parcels are contaminated.
Okay, I'm just making sure because I'm hearing this as a
Yeah.
whole. I hear everything
Yeah.
is put together.
With-
And we, because we would love to have that area back there so that we could get started on some housing.
Absolutely.
But when you have one in between there, to me, that's a problem. And then if you have one in between those two houses, then there's another problem because we know they have come and asked for those properties, those
Yeah.
parcels. I mean, we always put up that there's something wrong, da 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 da. So I just wanted you to please make me understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And
Thank you.
that's a good point, thank you. We do not have data that says the parcels adjacent to all of ours here have contamination.
Thank you.
So I don't want to say this and worry any council members or any residents, but me saying we don't have data, if I was putting a bet, I would say that those parcels also have some level of contamination. It's just a matter of, we have access to environmental testing and our residents here do not. So when we're talking about transferring the ownership of any parcels that we own into residents' hands, I'm pretty sure we'd be bothering the state to do that without testing. But at the very least, ethically, handing over property that we have every reason to suspect could have environmental contaminants to our residents without at least testing, I think would be irresponsible at this point. We've got better information than we have before. We don't want to look at this as a problem that's been ignored for years. The state is changing their guidelines on what the unsafe levels for commercial and residential development are, and we're reacting to that as best we can, working with the county CPA grants and stuff. So we cannot put in writing, we can't say assuredly that the residential lots that are between our two, the top right corner that you're talking about, I cannot put in writing anywhere that that lot has contamination, but if I was putting my money down, that lot has contamination.
Thank you.
Go another way.
And with, Jill's getting back to the slide, just to add a little bit on this, I know there have been surrounding properties that have been sold off or sold by the city to residents who have inquired. But with talking with Director Arnold and working with Director Arnold, we know it's our mission now moving forward that before we continue to sell off property to residents, we want to make sure that the environmental testing is done, because I would agree, I think it's unethical and irresponsible of the city to transfer ownership knowing that there could be potential environmental issues with those properties. So I know moving forward, it is definitely our number one priority to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to, one, identify that, two, possibly come up with a remediation solution before that sale occurs.
It's right here, 611 Austin Avenue, because I get used to calling it that. It just recently was combined. It's 3 parcels under the Economic Development Corporation's ownership. This is on Austin Avenue. if you're familiar with that area, you'll see that the buildings across the street there, a lot of them are vacant, a lot of them are fairly run down, but it is what used to be one of our main commercial corridors into the city. So this is, this land that we have here is an opportunity to try and rebuild that, whether it's going to be marketing that site for some kind of commercial development, maybe something akin to what we have in the downtown, where you have that mixed-use low-rise, where you have commercial space on the first floor, residential space on the second floor, or if the privately owned parcels go up around there and are able to grow as either dwellings or businesses, maybe we feel the need to put some public facilities in there. It is across the street, just cut off on the left again, across North Albion Street there from Calhoun Park. So we already have some public infrastructure over there, as well as the river trail is kind of right through there. So it is a great piece of property that the city has across from some great pieces of property in need of some love, and again, close to some county land-based property. So we have not pursued much environmental testing on this. As you can see, we've got more than a couple sites that we're pursuing testing on, and most of us don't want to have that many plates spinning. So that is a beautiful site. If it looks smaller than the others, know that the scale on these maps can get a little confusing, but the buildings that you're seeing are houses. So all of this is a lot of real estate that is at the very least, an economic opportunity for the city, but an opportunity for us to do something impactful for residents. This is another one of, oh, I'm sorry, that last one I'll say is one of our Michigan Economic Development Corporation redevelopment ready community priority sites. So MEDC has certified us as an RRC community, which gives us, of course, more access to their funding, their marketing programs. We are following their best practices in our zoning ordinance and in our comprehensive plan that we look at here today. And this is the priority site program is something that they give to communities like ours to help market these sites. So this is the site of the old Dalrymple School.
Yes, just a quick question. I see on the corner of Albion Street in Austin, there is a sign that says for sale by owner.
Yeah, the second property that has a building on it went up for sale this weekend.
Yeah, so that's right.
I can clarify that for her. So that individual put that sign there so that it would draw attention to the property that is on Eaton Street. So that building is not for sale.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like.
They put their sign not on the property. They just, okay.
Thank you.
Got it.
So
Oh, okay,
there's
it's for a
many
different
people-
property.
Exactly,
Okay.
because many people come up and down Austin Avenues,
I see.
as we continue to say all the time, that we could draw a lot of attention from Austin Avenue downtown if we could put signs up in that area, so that's what they did.
I certainly understand that, and that's why that 611 site is a priority for us, because it's one of the corridors coming in from, it is the corridor coming in from Marshall. So anybody from the county coming over here to work in Albion or meet with us is driving past there. So this is the site of the
Clever.
school, showing Ann Street, and it's kind of some large residential properties there you see on the bottom right. Again, 10 acres that the city has, high levels of contamination. If you're driving down Ann Street, or I'm sorry, it's down
Dalrymple Street.
Yeah, if you're driving down
Dalrymple.
Dalrymple, you'll see all the signs that say danger, keep off.
And on Ann Street.
It isn't necessarily quite that bad, but that is the property we're referring to. It is just another bear of property, 10 acres where there's some level of environmental contamination next amount of feet down. We're working to get up-to-date testing. We have an old phase 2 on this. This isn't where we're putting our energy right now. We have another priority site, the third one coming up soon, that is where we're putting our energy. But this is a great opportunity. Yeah, I mean, I could see anything from an expansion similar to what we have in downtown, or just single-family homes, and 10 acres goes a long way for single-family homes in a community like ours. So this is a site, again, in need of some love, but a really great opportunity for us moving forward. So this is a few parcels, slightly smaller than the urban renewal, slightly smaller than the general school property, but this is where we're putting our focus right now. So you've got the largest blue parcel there, you might recognize as the dog park. And while we are not working to take away a dog park from anybody, 8 acres for a dog park, we can rework that. Maybe 3 acres, 4 acres for a dog park, and use the others for some development, either public green space, a park, or commercial and residential development. One of the things that we will consider at some point along the way here is what level of remediation fits best for this site. And if a lower degree of remediation that brings us to that commercial threshold is going to be more efficient or it's easier to make happen than enough remediation to make those sites safe for residential development, as they are zoned R2, which is our multifamily residential district, then we might consider asking the planning commission to look at rezoning those parcels from residential to mixed use to attract a different type of development. And this will work with the physical conditions of the sites that we have and not spend too much of our time working against us. So this is where we're putting our energy right now. The city manager and I met with representatives from the ADJOURN and the Calhoun County Land Bank Authority, and we are looking to start get some phase 2s back and start marketing some of the smaller sites you see on the periphery there to make it worthwhile to community or investors to put work into the dog park site.
So it was my understanding that that was a Superfund, the blue section was a Superfund site that was remediated in 2003, maybe, 2? Is future remediation a function of that it was remediated to an industrial level versus a residential, or have they changed the guidelines so that because I remember them digging 8 feet down and replacing all that dirt from the foundry before. So you're telling me that there's now still contamination, tells me that either they changed the levels that are expected or required, or we've got a bigger problem.
Without looking into exactly what was done in 2003, the best information I can give you is that it was remediated to 2003 standards.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we know 20 years better now.
Yeah, okay.
It's an unfortunate situation, right? Because
Yeah.
clearly a considerable amount of work went into that,
Mhm.
that we're unfortunately finding out was not quite enough to make that.
But it has been tested recently, is what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay.
And there, I think there are just more requirements for now residential developments than there were previously.
Yeah.
And so we're focusing on this site as just guidance and recommendation from our RRC specialist. He came in, was about a month ago, and we toured all of our priority sites. And he has already received all of our environmental testing files, so he has all that data information. He reviewed them as well. And based off of the testing that has been done, and since there has been some level of remediation that occurred previously, that was their recommendation that we would be able to market to attract a developer to this site more so than the others. The other sites we know are going to need just more remediation work and requirements that we have not done like we have done with this site. That it would be just a bigger, I don't want to say battle, but just kind of pushing a boulder up a steep hill to get those up to the speed or the level that we would need to attract a potential developer. With that being said, that does not mean we will not in the future start working to obviously get some of those issues taken care of to attract new development in all areas.
Another way to think about it, we're not going after the largest sites or the easiest sites, we're going after the best sites. The sites that we're in a position to get onto the market. And this is our best positioned site, right? Not say site, we're referring to 4 parcels under our ownership and go to the land bank's ownership. What we can look forward to moving forward from us here is getting a plan together for the environmental remediation, and then looking to work with the MEDC and with our engineers at Wagner Associates to conduct some community visioning sessions so we can get input from the residents on what they would like to see here. I can tell you what I would like to see here, but that's just my opinion on that. So we want to make sure that we're working with the experts that we have with the county and with the state, but then going back to the residents and asking what they want to see from the public land that we have an opportunity to develop.
And do you have, or have you seen a template for how other communities have addressed their brownfields?
It's kind of an evolving problem, because 5 years ago, a template that somebody might be working on at some of the counties that have been in a financial position to address this aren't necessarily good under the state's kind of changing guidelines. The state is, I don't want to say moving the goalpost, but figuring out exactly where that goalpost should be.
Right.
And what our responsibilities are. So I can tell you the land bank has a process that they follow for all of their properties for testing and moving to market. And that has been our first step. We definitely are always interested in seeing what other communities are doing, what's working for them, what they've learned from. We haven't gotten to that point with this one, mostly I think because we've been having some good momentum working with the state land bank so far. Certainly if any of you are aware of municipalities or counties that have been dealing with this problem and you've been seeing it work, I'd love to sit down and talk with you about it or put you in contact with who you know at those municipalities, because this is going to be a long-term project. This will be a good 20, 30 years in Albion's history of trying to correct these issues. So open to any and all feedback at all times on what we can be doing better and how we can help make this life safer again.
Okay, and just to add more clarity to the question, and thank you for your answer. It was more so along the lines of funding. Have you seen anything that the other communities have been doing in order to fund remediation?
And locally or pursuing funds external to the community?
Both.
In pursuing funds external to the community, well, really no on either count.
Okay.
The avenue that we are going towards right now is that the state has a pattern of issuing an amount of funds for environmental remediation. For certainly some of the sites that we have, that range that the state will issue is acceptable. For some of these larger sites, the last conversation I had with the EDC director was that the largest amount that the state gave out last year was $500,000. So on these 10-acre sites, we're looking at maybe a quarter of what it would take. Certainly for the smaller residential sites, we have plenty that have not highlighted on here. There's one on Sycamore, fairly close to the Darwin School site, that would be perfect for a single-family home. It's on our short-term radar here to get some environmental testing for, but even if the first 5 feet of that soil were packed with lead and asbestos and everything terrible and awful, that is within the ballpark of something we can apply for funding to remediate. If you want to talk about developing local funding sources, a millage, a special district, those are options. Just the financial load of dealing with this when we're already asking residents to contribute more financially for the roads and any number of other projects that we have here at City Hall. External funding exists for this, so we're trying to take advantage of that first. We're eligible to receive it. We've got certainly a great case to receive it on many of these sites. That's where I've been putting that.
Gotcha.
Again, open to changing course there.
And I think our biggest struggle, I know Director Arnold and I have conversations almost probably on a weekly basis. How do we attract roughly 6,000 more residents to move into our community to take this burden off of the residents who currently live here? I think we all are aware that we used to be a booming, thriving industrial community where we had maybe 2 to 3 times our current population. However, over time, and unfortunately it continues, our population continues to decline, which means the residents who are left here, all of that burden falls on them to maintain or contribute to the level of service that the city is required to provide. So we are constantly trying to figure out ways that we can attract new development to take advantage of some of these larger sites, take advantage of some of the grant funding that is available to help attract more residents to our community to alleviate that burden from the residents who are here. I think as moving forward, we know we have a lot of available properties, and I don't want to get ahead if you're going to go over a recommendation that you have. But I know just in our day-to-day conversations that at this time, until we know what level of contamination that we are truly dealing with on the city-owned property, we're not making a recommendation to sell off any city-owned property unless we are working with a potential developer, resident, and they have resources available to really remediate those issues. I know in the past we have sold off some city-owned property for little to nothing, I think $1 most of the time. At my most recent conference that I was at, we had actually a presentation on excess surplus property in communities, and the speaker stressed, stop giving away property. It devalues your community. Even though we have contamination, even though we have issues within these properties, we still have there's still value here in our community. And I think when we don't follow the ordinance and the rules and the process that we have per our charter, we're essentially telling developers or our residents that we see no value in our community, and that's not true. So I think just moving forward, it's really important that we keep that in mind, and that we, any transaction that we recommend or bring to council for a recommendation, that we make sure it's in the best interest of the city, and just remember that we do have value here in town, and that we need to do whatever we can to make sure that we attract those residents to our community to alleviate that burden that so many of us have been dealing with for many years now.
I could not reiterate what City Attorney said, and enough times. About 12,000 and more people here in the 90s. Your population since then has gone down. Cost of living over the last 25 years has gone up. We have fewer residents paying for more things. This is another one on top. So this is the recommendation: make no sale of city-owned surplus property that does not guarantee the mitigation of environmental risks, that the property will be developed and not sit vacant, and that the city is following the process outlined in the code ordinances, legally, ethically, and strategically. When we bring you a property to the city council agenda that we are recommending for sale, it will be because it has met these 3 criteria. So that's the picture that we have right now. There's not, here's our big shiny new parcel that we're going to sell, and it's going to make us $500,000, but this is the work that it takes to get there.
Yes. If you're building on a private lot, not city-owned, do you have to have a test for environmental risk? Okay.
If you're aware of environmental risks, not exactly sure how the state deals with private residents. Not looking to find out how they would deal with us if we went against these guidelines and the numbers that they put out and say this is unsafe for residential, this is unsafe for commercial. When we talk about building code, different side of the job that I do, the state code is the bare minimum. So when we're talking about environmental remediation, we are remediating to the bare minimum. That's how the state government sets these policies. So, I mean, that is the picture of surplus property now, because that each parcel that we have is going to get some work. We have a pretty good idea of how to get there, and we are working with our other municipal partners to make sure that we're getting there in the way that we all know best. Okay, any questions? We're more than happy to take them. I'll let you get on with the rest of the week.
Any other questions for Director Arnold?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So at this point, we will go over the regular agenda items. We wanted to make sure we had time to get through these so that we could hopefully get through the regular council meeting quickly as possible for our city clerk to get a good night's sleep before the big day tomorrow. So on the agenda, we have the approval of our 2022-26 comprehensive master plan. We will be approving that this evening. So do we have any questions or comments in regards to that topic? We good there? All right. In regards to the 2022-26 Economic Development Strategic Plan, we will be approving that as well. Any questions or comments?
I have a question about the strategic plan. Not in the deep detail of it, just, we've had conversations about the comprehensive plan and it being held as a work in progress, is what we discussed previously. Is the strategic plan considered the same?
So the Economic Development Strategic Plan?
Yes.
So, I mean, there was time for feedback and input as well, but we are approving or on the agenda to approve.
I think I can answer Councilmember Williams' question. Yeah, essentially, yes, any formal plan of the city or governing organization within your community, any plan that is approved, you should be reviewing it each year as new development, as changes happen within your community. You should always review what's highlighted in that plan, and if something is no longer a priority, or if something comes up that is a priority, you should constantly be updating that plan. So yes, I would say any formal plan of any governing organization should be viewed as a working document so that you can make the necessary changes as new things happen from year to year. Amy DePrez, the EDC president, she will be here at the regular meeting. So if you would like to ask her that as well, but I would say yes, any formal plan you should constantly be reviewing, because what good does is that if you establish these plans but you don't do anything with it until it's time to update or create a new plan, it just sits on the shelf, and that's not the purpose of these plans. So you should always
Glad to
be
hear that.
reviewing and making changes throughout the year.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Next would be the approval of the amendment to the Calhoun County Dispatch Authority. That agreement, do we have any questions or comments in regards to that item?
Yes, Haley, can you just brief?
Mayor Pro Tem, did you have a
Yes.
question?
I'm sorry, yes. Haley, can you just brief us a little bit, please?
Yes, so the Calhoun County Consolidated Dispatch Authority, it was formed back in, I believe, 2010, and it's composed of all, the city of Albion, city of Battle Creek, city of Marshall, city of Springfield, and Calhoun County. So they provide 911 EMS dispatch services to Calhoun County. In forming that organization, an interlocal agreement was established with all of the contributing jurisdictions. This conversation started, I would say, late spring with the new director of the Dispatch Authority. So within the original interlocal agreement, it was broken down to what all the contributing jurisdictions would need to contribute to fund the MERS retirement in establishing this formal organization. As time has gone on, the Dispatch Governing Board of Directors, they've been reviewing the unfunded liabilities through the MERS retirement, and they found that the percentage that has been identified in the original interlocal agreement does not suffice or meet the need to continue to fund the unfunded liabilities for retirement. So the director reached out to all of the contributing jurisdictions. We kind of started having initial conversations on, okay, what does this look like to get us to be able to appropriately fund those unfunded liabilities. I'm happy to say that in this new amendment, the city of Albion, we will actually see a decrease in what we're required to contribute. I think we went from 8.8% to 7.63%. So we will actually have a savings here at the city of Albion. Some other contributing jurisdictions saw an increase, some others saw a decrease, but it's just to make sure that we are the governing the dispatch authority is funding their MERS retirement. So that's just the amendment to the interlocal agreement. Everything else within the original interlocal agreement stays the same. It's just changing the percentages to fund the MERS retirement.
Okay. I remember when they came for the visit, they visited and they spoke. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that I thought this was some of what they were speaking of. that
No,
they-
well, this is a little different from what they came to present on. So what they came to present on tomorrow, the ballot, they will actually have a millage to fund the actual service that they provide. So right now, the dispatch authority, they are funded by calls for service, and through this millage, they would then move to a chief, is it just like, I'm blanking on the radios.
It would be on your property taxes at that point.
Yes,
But
and
it's- But I think this is not necessarily to fund dispatch operations, it's to fund new radios, new computer equipment, new radio towers, better service the entire county.
So there's a millage on that as well.
yes, but that is complete, that's separate from the MERS retirement funding.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on that topic? All right, the approval of the City of Albion Park rules. Any questions or comments on that topic? Councilman Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. I just got one question. Has tobacco products always been prohibited in parks? City manager, you know?
Yes, I believe so, that it's currently listed in our current park rules.
Gotcha.
I think Cullen is going to check for us.
We added it a number of years ago when secondhand smoke health concerns were raised. I want to say 2011 or 12. It was shortly after we both came on, Councilman Reed.
I would say the next thing is, I was sitting there in the park one day, and a gentleman, and this has been within the last 2 weeks, he walked through, he was smoking with his 2 daughters, and he took his cigarette out, he was through smoking, and he just popped it over in the grass.
Yeah.
And the girls were barefooted. And I said to him, I said, do you know there's a fine for smoking in the parks? And he said, what? I said, fine. I said, plus, what if one of your daughters stepped on your cigarette? You know, it's just really not a good thing.
And I know the Recreation Commission, they've experienced, or they've received concerns or complaints just with the level of cigarettes butts that
They're
have been
inside.
left over
They're inside the wood chips.
in the park spaces, even though we have trash receptacles and places for people to properly dispose of them, it's easier for them to
It wasn't in a pre-existing ordinance, this would be the first time smoking was added,
Really?
that I can see.
No, I believe you. I just thought we talked about it.
Thank
Any
you,
other
Phil.
questions or comments on that topic? Next would be our resolution 2022-26 to support $200,000 from the Albion Trust for Victory Park Ice Arena and Ketchum Field improvements. Do you have questions or comments on that?
I have a question. Do we know the balance of the Albion Trust?
What's currently in there?
Yes.
I don't know.
I can't speak off the top of my head. Tom, do you know by chance?
Off the top of my head, I don't, other than Rick Wayne was in my office today, and he seemed to think it was around 900,000.
That's what I remember.
I was gonna say, I thought it was close to $1 million.
Yeah.
I think it was at the start of this year, but with the way the market has been, I would not be surprised if we have seen a decline in that. But the initial step to request funds from the Albion Trust, it has to come from a formal resolution from City Council. So this is what this is for tonight.
Any other questions or comments on this? All right. We're at our public comment section. Anybody in the gallery that would like to have the opportunity to speak? Please just state your name and your address, and 3 minutes is yours.
Yes, good evening. My name is Scott Avery. I live at 24177 F Drive South, Homer, Michigan. I'm a volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. I was looking actually I had talked to the assistant city manager earlier this week. She said to attend this meeting in regards to property that the city owns versus what the land bank owns. Because Habitat is looking for one, maybe two parcels, 2 homes to rehab. We have 2 people in our pipeline that are from Albion, and they're at the front end of the process. So we have yet to see them do their 100 hours, but they were looking to stay in Albion. So I was looking to talk to someone in, it might be Director Arnold that I need to talk to, but I'm just reaching out because I'm having a hard time. I'm also a new board member on the Habitat board. So I know that we had meetings, maybe a year and a half ago, where Ms. Jackson was there, City Manager Snyder was there, and we had gotten it seemed like a bit of energy to go to bring Habitat here as well, other than the one we had just finished at Jopenning. So I'm reaching out with nothing much materialized out of that. We kind of fizzled. We had a number of other board members who were there who are not here now. So, or council members, excuse me. So I guess I'm also reaching out in that avenue, and I'm not sure who to talk to in that. So those are my 2 requests. Whether someone can help me or not, I'm not sure which direction to head to other than Mr. Arnold.
Yep, I would say the first step is to speak with Director Arnold, and he can maybe go over which city-owned parcels that may fit the need that you're looking for, and he will be able to get you started in that process.
Okay.
I can't help you with that, but I had some people that were asking me, there's one lady whose mother is giving up her house and living with them. And anyway, the question was, if they donated their house to Habitat, could they write it off on tax?
They can write a
Absolutely.
portion of it off. That would be through the executive director there, Robert Phillips. So
Just
if you
call
would like,
Habitat?
yes,
Wow.
call Habitat. I can give you the information after the meeting, his contact information after the meeting. So I think my 3 minutes are up. So thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, 37 seconds.
That's the first one.
Anybody else in the gallery that would like to stand and make comment to council?
If I could, I believe we're going to do it at this meeting. Director Mead, would you like to introduce our new deputy clerk treasurer to council? I'm not sure if she's available to stay for the regular meeting. Yep.
Yes, today is actually our new deputy treasurer clerk's first sitting. Nicole Haddock started, as I said, today, so she made it through one day. That's great. So
She's not running.
very happy to have her here. She's, like I said, I work with her pretty closely today, all day, and she's picking up things really quick. I think it's going to be a great thing for the city, so just want to introduce her to everybody else.
Tom, do you mind if I get a quick picture of the 2 of you to the paper? So everybody will know who she is. Okay, 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1.
Just take a bunch, pick one.
And Nicole, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about yourself with members of council?
Sure. I'm from Battle Creek. Bachelor's in accounting. So I appreciate all of you having me here today and feeling like part of the city team. Great to be here. I'm also in the Army Reserves. So I do serve on the weekends and a couple weeks out of the month. So if I'm not around, maybe that might be why.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you and welcome to the city of Albion.
Yes,
Sorry I have to work with Tom.
thank you.
That's been great.
And did anybody hear from Councilman Wallace?
I did not. I know she sent the request to have, we could Monday is in at 6 p.m., but I've not heard from her, so I'm not sure if anyone else, she was unable to be here.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
Yeah, she,
A few minutes.
Yep. Be back in 5 minutes.